Well, good morning, Fedora Nation. It is Saturday, the 17th of February. It's a little chilly outside, depending on where you are on the East Coast. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, as always, to Front Porch Brunch, a gathering where like-minded folk and even folk who disagree with us will get together and we will comment upon the news. And boy, is there a lot of news to comment on. What a week it has been. We are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So if you haven't done it yet, please send out some greetings to everybody and tell them, hey, there's a funny looking man and an even funnier looking hat sitting around talking about what's going on in the world. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and come on in and join us. And believe me, there is a lot to be joined for. Oh, so much to talk about. My goodness. Quite the week it has been. Yes. Good to see everybody out there this morning. Good morning, Miss Gypsy. So good to see you, my dear. And Tex, you're down in Texas? Oh, now I'm jealous. I'm just flat out jealous. That's just ridiculous. But I love you anyway. Mwah. Good to see you, darling. Oh, so good to have all you guys with us as we get together and talk about what a crazy week in the news it has been. As I say, we are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and any other places on social media that'll have this fabulous little show. And, oh, gosh, what a week it's been. Just flat out crazy week. Oh, my gosh. I suppose I should give some explanations, again, for those of you who were not with us last Saturday, and explain where we are, what's going on, as far as what happened for last Saturday morning. For those of you who may not realize, normally this show is on at like 10:30 in the morning on Saturday. And that was the week that the Tucker Carlson Vladimir Putin interview dropped. And I hadn't had a chance to really watch it fully through by myself, jot down my notes, put my thoughts together. So we delayed Front Porch Brunch until 5 o'clock in the evening on Saturday. And I had every intention of doing a full and normal kind of brunch, except we're going to do it at 5 o'clock at night. Well, the more I kept going through that interview, the more I'm like, there's no way. If I did everything I wanted to cover and this interview between Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin, we'd be here till 10 o'clock. There's no way. So I just shortened it to the interview with Vladimir Putin. And believe me, that was like 3+ hours of content right there. And it was, not just the interview itself, but the fact that we were able to sit there in real time, dissect the comments and the questions, and everybody give their analysis of it was fantastic. Now, for those of you who weren't there, I had something happen last Saturday night that has not happened to me yet, and YouTube is yet to give me a sufficient explanation about what happened. Now, by the same token, since it happened, I haven't really had the time to push the issue and get them to pin them down and get an answer. While we were live streaming on YouTube, and all we were doing was simply playing the clip from the Tucker Carlson interview, which was on Twitter, on his Twitter page. And maybe, I don't know, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes into it, people started telling me, hey, YouTube is down. And I went, what? So I'd go out and I'd look at YouTube and I'd be like, huh. And then it would pop right back up. Well, so we'd go on doing our thing, which we had been doing for the previous hour and 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden, YouTube would go down again. And finally, after about the third time this happened, I'm like, okay, that's it. On everybody's good advice, Robert Lowry being one of them, bless his heart, I wish he were here to hear this. On, his advice and others, we just shut out YouTube and just went straight to Rumble, which was fine. We got our biggest audience on Rumble for a live stream that we'd ever had. But I'm sitting here going, but all I'm doing are playing clips from the interview, which anybody could otherwise watch on their own and, make their own commentary and draw their own conclusions. Now, YouTube came back and said, well, you violated copyright. So that's when I said, okay, tell me where in the live stream that I violated copyright. That's all I want to know. Just tell me what spot it is, because I mean, look, I'm reasonable. I'll cut it out if I think it's not an issue of fair use or whatever. They never answered my question. They still haven't. They gave me a link to what the policy is on copyright, but they never told me, hey, this is what we deem to be copyrighted material. You know, I mean, literally. And normally, for any of you all that are content creators out there, you know how YouTube does this. They'll send you an email saying, hey, at minute 52 and 45 seconds, we detected copyrighted material. Here are your options for how to deal with it. They'll send you an email. They will put it on the front page, your dashboard, in your YouTube Studio Creator section. And they'll even identify it again in the live stream clip that you have. They did none of that. They just said, copyright, boom, and you're down. And I'm like, well, where? They won't tell me. Now, again, I haven't pushed the issue, so I mean, that's partially my fault. But by the same token, I keep asking them, I've asked them 3 times now, will you please tell me where this is? I understand what the policy is on copyright. I just want you to show me where it's at. Haven't done it yet. So, in the absence of them giving me a good answer about what happened, I am inclined to believe this is nothing more than good old-fashioned YouTube fuckery, for lack of a better term. My apologies. And I'm like, okay, you just don't want us talking about the interview. You don't want people seeing the interview, which, again, I'm going to make some brief comments in the HodgePodge do section of all this. But that was just, to me, extraordinary. It's like, really? I'm sitting here showing people what a world leader said in an interview, and you guys don't want it being shown. I mean, that's the only conclusion that I can come to. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, if I'm wrong, fine. But if YouTube's not going to tell me where the copyrighted material was at that they claim is the basis of the reason to take down the stream, then I'm going to work from the assumption that somebody at YouTube, as opposed to the whole organization, somebody at YouTube didn't want this to be seen. Well, that's being awfully conspiratorial. Hey, then I'm in good company, because I'm in a long line of people that are of that same conclusion. I mean, the list of people who have been live streaming something, and then all of a sudden it gets taken down right in the middle of the stream for not one good apparent reason other than the fact that YouTube can do it, ought to give people an idea of just how much power this social media platform has over the question of free speech. So, yeah, it's been a wild couple of weeks, but hopefully we're getting back to normal, which whatever normal is on this live stream, believe me, given who the host is, you kind of understand why. So that's where we're at. We're now here. As I said, it is the middle of February. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. Which, by the way, for those of you out there who have someone in your life, be it a spouse or a significant other or whatever, how was Valentine's Day for you guys? Seriously, how was Valentine's Day? I'm curious to know. You know, so if you want to drop your Valentine's Day story in chat, just let me know. For my part, and maybe you've already seen it, my good buddy Tracy Barkley invited me onto her channel on Valentine's Day to review a movie, which she calls it Friends and Film, and it's a fabulous little get together. It's me, it's Tracy, and then from there it's Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast, and we review films. And we just recently reviewed The Forever Purge, which is the last film in that series. Not one of the best, but whatever. But yeah, we hung out together on Valentine's Day. We had fun. You know, we enjoyed ourselves. We kind of laughed about the whole thing. And we reviewed a film, which, by the way, I don't think that's going to be the last of these. Tracy wants to keep this thing going, and I'm all for it. If you are not following her channel, which is Keto and Crime, Keto and Crime, which is spelled crime with a K, Krime, give her a sub. Tracy is an absolute sweetheart. She is genuinely one of the nicest people you'll ever talk to. And, I will absolutely promote her work any chance I get. And not because she has me on the channel. Tracy's just good people. So check her out and check us out in that movie review. But yeah, if you've got stories from Valentine's Day or whatever, drop them in chat, and then, we'll comment on it and either cry or laugh about it, depending on how it goes. So anyway, all right. Enough of the perfunctories. Let's get down to business, shall we? Okay. Listening to you guys as I do my Saturday errands, won't be able to comment. Well, that's fine, Dave. We're glad we're glad you're listening. Put that earbud in. Be careful out there. If the weather is bad where you are, be safe. And all good completely. All right, let's get into some stories. And I've been saying all so far this year that 2024 is going to be wild. And sure enough, the year 2024 is not failing to disappoint. Let's get to the first story that's broken in the past 24 hours. New York Times. Trump fraud trial will exceed $450 million. The ruling in Donald J. Trump's civil fraud case could cost him all of his available cash. The judge said the former president's, quote, complete lack of contrition bordered on the pathological. Absolutely amazing. And good morning, Professor. Glad to have you here with us. Oh, by the way, I'll be sending you a message and the other boys a message sometime today asking you guys what you might be doing next Saturday night. So be on the lookout for that. Since the South Carolina primary is going to come in, I thought we might all hang out together and talk about it. So getting back to the New York Times, we read the following. Article written by Jonah Bromwich and Ben Prostis. A New York judge on Friday handed Donald J. Trump a crushing defeat in his civil fraud case, finding the former president liable for conspiring to manipulate his net worth and ordering him to pay a penalty of nearly $355 million plus interest that could wipe out his entire stockpile of cash. The decision by Justice Arthur F. Engoron caps a chaotic, years-long case in which New York's Attorney General put Mr. Trump's fantastical claims of wealth on trial. With no jury, the power was in Justice Engoron's hands alone, and he came down hard. The judge delivered a sweeping array of punishments that threaten the former president's business empire as he simultaneously contends with 4 criminal prosecutions and seeks to regain the White House. Justice Engoron barred Mr. Trump for 3 years from serving in any top roles of his New York company, including portions of his own Trump organization. Oh, excuse me, I misread that. Serving in top roles at any New York company, including portions of his own Trump organization. He also imposed a 2-year ban on the former president's adult sons and ordered that they pay more than $4 million each. One of them, Eric Trump, is the company's de facto chief executive, and the ruling throws into doubt whether any member of the family can run the business in the near term. The judge also ordered that they pay substantial interest, pushing the penalty for the former president to $450 million, according to Attorney General Letitia James. In his unconventional style, well, using the word style with this guy is a whole lot of leeway, but whatever. Justice Engoron criticized Mr. Trump and the other defendants for refusing to admit wrongdoing for years. Quote, their complete lack of contrition and remorse borders on the pathological. Now, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. I want to read that again. Justice Engoron criticized Mr. Trump and other defendants for refusing to admit wrongdoing for years. Hey, Judge Engoron, I have a question. What if they're refusing to admit wrongdoing because they didn't do anything wrong? Has that thought ever conceivably gone through that addled brain of yours? But let's get back to the article. The complete lack of contrition borders on the pathological. He also noted that Mr. Trump had not committed violent crimes and also conceded that, quote, Donald Trump is not Bernard Madoff, Still, he wrote, defendants are incapable of admitting the error of their ways. Mr. Trump will appeal the financial penalty, but will have to come up with either the money or secure a bond within 30 days. The ruling will not render him bankrupt because most of his wealth is in real estate, which altogether is worth far more than the penalty. Mr. Trump will also ask an appeals court to halt the restrictions on him and his sons from running the company while it considers the case. In a news conference from his Palm Beach, Florida home, Mar-a-Lago, on Friday evening, he attacked Ms. James, and Justice Engoron called both of them corrupt. Okay, let's get into this. It's been a little while since I have talked about this case. And if you haven't followed it, here's basically what Letitia James's office accused Trump of. That he did not state the value of his assets correctly, and in doing so committed fraud upon the banks to get himself better financial terms for the deals that he was trying to do, particularly the borrowing of the money. Now, here's the problem that I and so many other people have with how this went down, okay? Number one, these loans that are being referenced are from years ago. Now, in and of itself, that wouldn't be enough to make me mad because, okay, if you did a deed in the past and it still falls under the law's requirements and the statute of limitations hasn't run out, all right. But the loans, number one, were from years ago. Number two, the loans have since been paid back with interest. Number three, the banks, the insurance companies, let me emphasize this, nobody has claimed an injury in this between the parties involved in the transaction. The banks and the lawyers and the insurance agents and the insurance agencies on one side are not claiming that they have been defrauded or injured in any way possible. Trump, Eric Trump, Don Jr., the Trump organization on the other side, they're not claiming injury. They're not claiming default. Okay? Nobody is claiming an injury in this. No one is claiming that they were defrauded in this. Everybody on both sides completed their parts of the transactions. The banks loaned the Trump organization the money. The Trump organization paid back the banks with interest, which means that not only did the banks make money on this deal, the state of New York made money on this deal because they're making money on whatever taxes they're charging the banks. So everybody in this deal made money. There is no injury. Where is the crime? Where? I am loath to understand this. I'm still loath. I mean, look, and Dave brings up a really good point. He's a real estate guy. The Dems want to eliminate 1031 tax exchange, and they will try to eliminate Roth and SEP IRAs. Our government absolutely. I agree with that totally. And I'm not a real estate guy in the sense that, I'm not some big wheeler dealer. I'm not in commercial banking, whatever. But to the average person like me, I'm looking at this going, this is crazy. And I have a question for Attorney General James. For the love of God, woman, your state is falling apart. New York City is turning into a hellhole. You've got crime rampant in the streets. You've got cops who are being beat up, and you're worried about a white-collar crime that has no injured parties whatsoever, and nobody is complaining about it. And that's a great question. If there's no crime, who does this $355 million plus, or let's just say upwards of 450? Okay, let's just say 450 on the top end. Who does this get distributed to? Are they going to give it to the banks? The banks aren't claiming any injury. They're not claiming they're defrauded. They're not claiming they're out of money. As a matter of fact, I think it was an expert from Deutsche Bank came in, said, look, we saw Donald Trump's financial statements. There was nothing wrong with them. They came in and said the assets, were enough to cover the loans in question. And that's the other part that blows my mind in this. Absolutely blows my mind. Does anybody, and I will ask this question again, and I will do it to my dying breath. Does anybody really believe that these banks in New York City, some of the biggest, most well-capitalized in the world, not just the country, the world, that are involved every day in making major loans to businesses in New York City, New York State, and around the country, and probably around the world, if the truth be told, does anybody really think that these guys are going to loan the Trump organization multi-millions of dollars? And by the way, let's remember, Donald Trump has declared bankruptcy twice in his professional life. Or personal life, depending on how you look at it. At minimum, he's declared bankruptcy twice in his life. Does anybody really think these banks are going to be stupid enough to loan someone money and not know damn good and well the value of the collateral that is being offered up to secure the loan? Or have some very good idea of the value of Donald Trump's assets? Let's just say they weren't even being offered up as the collateral to secure the loan. Let's just say on evaluation, they're showing you on paper, yes, this is how much we're worth. Here's our capitalization. Here's our cash flow. Here's everything else. Does anybody really think these banks are going to give away multi-millions of dollars and not know very good and well the value of the person that they're giving them to and the value of his financial organization? That's crazy. They're not going to do that. And again, keep in mind, nobody has claimed they were injured in this transaction. The banks loaned out the money. The banks got back their money. The banks got back their money with interest. The Trump organization is not in any way, shape, or form saying that the banks treated them unfairly or violated the law in making the loans to them. Nobody in this transaction is claiming an injury, yet Letitia James and Engoron the Moron, which, by the way, that is his name going forward, folks. If you, the members of Fedora Nation, keep a list of the nicknames that I give somebody, or if you want to use it yourself or come up with your own, that's cool. But for my part, going forward, he's known forever as Engoron the Moron. This guy is an idiot. And on top of that, he is just partisan to boot. This is the guy that doesn't mind going around saying that juries sometimes get it wrong and it's up to him to kind of straighten out what the wrong that they do. This is how much he trusts we the people. Or maybe better to say, you the people in New York City. It just unbelievable. I mean, it really is. And you really want to know the perverseness of the thinking of Letitia James? I'm going to show you the statement that she made. I should have, if I thought I wouldn't get copyright struck by YouTube, I'd show you the video. But just the words are enough. This is the press release that her office put out after Engoron's decision came down. This is around 6 o'clock yesterday evening. New York Attorney General Letitia James today released the following statement after Justice Arthur F. Engoron, or Engoron the Moron as we know him, of New York State Superior Court ruled in her favor in her office's civil fraud case against Donald Trump the other individual defendants, and the Trump Organization entities, ordering the defendants to pay more than $450 million total, representing, excuse me, $363.8 million in disgorgement and prejudgment interest. Quote, today, justice has been served. This is a tremendous victory for the state, the nation, and for everyone who believes that we all must play by the same rules, even former presidents. For years, Donald Trump engaged in massive fraud to falsely inflate his net worth and unjustly enrich himself, his family, and his organization. Letitia, I don't know if you have the mental capability of understanding what kind of transaction was engaged in here, but this was a loan. The Trump Organization went to the banks and they got a loan. They asked to borrow money. They presented the banks with financial statements, statements about the value of their properties, very detailed, highly organized statements of cash flow, asset value, and everything else. The banks looked at the statements and said, okay, we're good with this. We're going to loan you the money. The banks loaned the money. The Trump Organization paid back the money with interest, meaning the banks made money on this transaction. The banks are not claiming that they were injured or defrauded. The Trump Organization is not claiming they were injured or defrauded. Nobody is crying about this except you. So I don't understand how you get this whole, engaged in massive fraud to falsely inflate his net worth and unjustly enrich himself. Falsely inflated his net worth. Just unbelievable. But we read further into the statement. While he may have authored the art of the deal, our case revealed his business was based on the art of the steal. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of honest, hardworking people. Now, wait a minute. How did he cheat? Well, he inflated the value of his assets. Says who? Deutsche Bank was perfectly happy with the... Again, nobody is crying about this. The two parties in the transaction, nobody is complaining, has complained, filed a complaint, said they were defrauded. Nobody. And honestly, let's just assume for a moment. Again, let us just assume for a moment that you're right. That Donald Trump tried to inflate the value of his assets to get better terms on these loans. One question now. Are you telling me that Wall Street bankers, again, and I'm being repetitive here, and I'm sorry, but I'm trying to make a point. Are you trying to tell me that Wall Street bankers are so stupid, so naive, and so inexperienced that they can't look at a set of inflated financial statements and figure out, hey, this guy's full of crap like a Christmas goose. We're not giving him this kind of money. Are you crazy? I mean, are you trying to tell me these guys are so dumb that Donald Trump pulled a fast one on them? Really? They're so infantile in their understanding of high finance that they need you to protect them from a transaction that they engaged in years ago And not only got all their money back, they got all their money back with interest. This is what you're trying to tell me. I ask a question to you, the members of Fedora Nation. Does any of what she's saying make a bit of sense to anybody? But let's continue reading the statement. Everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank to get a mortgage to buy their house, and if they did, our government would throw the book at them. There simply cannot be different rules for different people. Donald Trump is finally facing accountability for his lying, his cheating, and staggering fraud. Because no matter how big, rich, or powerful you think you are, no one is above the law. The decision issued today by Justice Arthur F. Engoron, or Engoron the Moron, grants the following relief. Donald Trump and the other defendants are ordered to pay more than $450 million in total, which represents $363.8 million in disgorgement and prejudgment interest. Trump, Alan Weiselberg, and Jeffrey McConney are each banned from serving as an officer or director of any New York company for 3 years. Alan Weiselberg and Jeffrey McConney are additionally banned from serving in a financial management role in any New York company for life. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are banned from serving as an officer or director of any New York company for 2 years. Donald Trump and his companies are banned for applying for loans from any New York bank or financial institution for 3 years. A new independent director of compliance role will be created at the Trump Organization to ensure the companies establish internal protocols and meets financial reporting obligations. The current independent external monitor will continue to oversee the company's financial dealings and ensure this fraud cannot continue. Folks, do you realize what she's done with this ruling? I want you to think about what I'm about to say next. And I apologize for all the water sipping. I am very, very dry this morning. My bad. Do you realize what she's done? I mean, I want you to think about how dystopianly Marxist this ruling is from Engoron the Moron. Okay? Not only is Trump and the Trump Organization going to have to pay out $450 million, 363 of it is the penalty, and the rest of it's the interest. Donald Trump Sr., Alan Weiselberg, and Jeff McConney cannot serve as an officer on not just the Trump Organization, any New York company for 3 years. The Trump Organization and Donald Trump Sr. can't even apply for a loan for 3 years. Not only are we going to take your money, we're going to make sure you can't get access to any more money. But it's worse than even that. It's the last part of this that's blowing my mind. A new independent director of compliance role will be created at the Trump Organization to ensure the company establishes internal protocols and meets financial reporting obligations. Do you realize what she's doing here? Engoron the Moron and Letitia James are putting a mole inside a business. I'll say that again. Engoron the Moron and Letitia James are putting a mole inside of a legal and lawful business in the state of New York. Now, why am I using the word mole? Guess what? This independent director of compliance, they're not reporting to the Trump Organization. Don't you damn well bet they're not going to be straight to whatever law enforcement officer that Letitia James says, hey, you got a problem with anybody inside the Trump Organization, you report to this person. Here's their number. Here's their email. Again, for not one reason other than they can and they don't like Donald Trump. This, by the way, from Letitia James, who, when she campaigned for Attorney General, said, I'm going to get Donald Trump. Her words, not mine. I am not making this up. They're trying to strip him of his money. They're trying to make sure he cannot get access to more capital and more money. He cannot run his own business. And they're going to put a mole inside of his business to make sure that anything that they don't like, they'll have somebody on the inside who can report it to them. And I think Mark Gobert is absolutely right that Engoron showed everybody how to do a Marxist takeover of a private enterprise. And if that's not what this is, I don't know what it is. And again, I come back to the point, and I know I'm belaboring this, and I apologize, but it has got to be said. There is no injured party in this transaction. Nobody. These loans happened years ago. These loans were paid back with interest. The banks, the lawyers, and the insurance companies never filed a claim, never said they were injured, never said anything. The Trump organization, exact same thing. You know, it blows my mind. Please don't show. Yeah, well, where Letitia James is concerned, I'm not going to do it anyway. I mean, I saw the video of Letitia James speaking, and I have never seen. Well, I should take that back. I probably have seen other examples of it, but I have never seen an individual with such a combination of Messiah complex and megalomania. She's got Messiah complex in that she thinks she's saving the world. And if it weren't for her, everybody would suffer under the hands of horrible people like Donald Trump. She's a megalomaniac because she's using the law to try to take over the world. I mean, the look on her face was just extraordinary. It wasn't glee. It wasn't happiness. I don't even know that I'd call it satisfaction. It was, I've saved everyone, and we've got to make sure that dirty, rotten people like Donald Trump can't do this to anybody else. Oh my God. It's just awful. Just absolutely awful. I've never seen anything like this. Never. Now, the decision's going to be appealed, but it's just one more form of aggravation. And again, if Donald Trump does something wrong and I think he's done it wrong, I'll tell you. But for the life of me, I cannot figure out what the heck Donald Trump did that justifies this. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It's just absolutely amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. I don't get it. Oh, wow. Just unbelievable. So it's about 11:15, and my name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We are engaging in Front Porch Brunch, a discussion of items in the news. And before we slip away to our next item, if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, a Gettr, a Truth Social, or whatever. Let people know, come on in. We've got people watching over on Rumble. We got people watching over on YouTube and Twitter. We're glad to have everybody here this morning. Please hit the thumbs up. I hear that helps with the algorithm, and I don't say that enough, but give it a thumbs up, share it around. Let's see if we can pump up the volume on this thing. So let's get to the other big legal story of the week. Oh my God. This is a soap opera, if ever there was one. And I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. Fani, or Fani, depending on how you pronounce her name, Fani Willis, who up to now I have always referred to as Fanny Pack. I'm going to change that nickname. Because after what I watched Thursday, in my mind, she's got a much, much better nickname. Oh God. Old Fanny's going to be forever known as the Fulton County Drama Mama. And oh yeah, and you're absolutely right. Going back to the Trump thing, yeah. He's got to put up a bond, and plus a bond for the Carroll appeal. And yeah, it's a mess. It's a giant mess. Absolutely a complete net. And the worst part, Engoron, this trial didn't even get in front of a jury. Now, I've heard some people say, well, that's because they didn't ask for one or they screwed up on the paperwork. And I have a hard time buying that. I really do. But very little evidence got allowed to be entered. This was never put in front of a jury. They couldn't get a change of venue. They couldn't get a change of judge. I mean, and Engoron the Moron, maybe, again, I'm no lawyer. I'm not in New York State, which has its blessings as far as being able to comment about all this. But Engoron the Moron may be one of the worst judges I think I've ever seen. When the guy is sitting there smirking into the camera on the first day of the trial, when Trump and his lawyers are walking in, that ought to tell you everything you need to know or tell you a whole lot about the guy. But anyway, let's go down to Georgia, where the devil is at, or at least Drama Mama's at. Okay, I got a question before we get started. And I know you guys have probably seen a ton of this already, as you are the smartest audience on social media. And good morning, Welsh. Good to see you, sir. A tip of the hat. Oh, yeah, and going back to the Trump, yeah, he right there next to him on the bench. Yep. Oh, he drama daddy. That's, you got that right, but we'll get to him in a minute. Okay, so I'm assuming, and again, if you have seen clips from the trial down in Georgia over the past the hearing, I should say, indicate, if you haven't seen it, tell me. If you have seen it, tell me. But what's going on right now? And I'll pull this up real quick. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Defiant Fani Willis takes stand, rambles about her relationship with Nathan Wade, shouts at the prosecutor. Now, I want to go down into this article, drill down into it. And when you get down to near the end of it, we'll tell you what this is all about. Okay. There is a hearing going on right now about the question of, is there an improper relationship between Nathan Wade, who is the lead prosecutor for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and Fani Willis, who is the Fulton County District Attorney. And the reason that this came out is in part because of a filing from one of the defendants. Let me see if I can find his name in here real fast. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. An evidentiary hearing about alleged misconduct by Soros-backed Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis was underway on Thursday as the judge weighs whether Willis should be disqualified from the Trump RICO case. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which, by the way, is not a newspaper that's very friendly to either Republicans or conservatives, Fani Willis financially benefited from a romantic relationship with top Trump prosecutor Nathan Wade, Trump's RICO co-defendant. Now, here's how all this got started. RICO co-defendant Michael Roman filed an explosive supplementary reply to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and accused her of lying to the court about her affair with the top Trump prosecutor she appointed. Willis's paramour, I love that way that's worded, Nathan Wade, took the stand and testified under oath he paid for all his vacations he took with Fani Willis with his business card, and Fani reimbursed him with cash. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. The bank statements provided by Jocelyn Wade prove Nathan Wade bought Fani Willis flights to Miami and San Francisco. Now, it's the last paragraph in this article that I want to get to. And then I'll get, and up in Connecticut, I saw your comment. But here's what it gets down to. And it's this. Let me focus in on this a little better. Judge Scott McAfee on Monday said Fani Willis may be disqualified from Trump's RICO case over her improper relationship with top Trump prosecutor Nathan Wade. Quote, I think it's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. And that's the phrase I want to focus on. Judge McAfee said in his statement, the state has admitted a relationship existed, so what remains to be proven is the existence and the extent of any financial benefit, again, if there even was one. And so, I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification. I think an evidentiary hearing must occur to establish the record of these core allegations. Okay. I want to go back to the first sentence. It's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. Okay, let's deal with that for a few minutes. And I want to bring these in. Fulton County judges are elected. This judge wants a future. LawTube is giving this 50-50 or 60-40 in favor of Fani. I have heard the exact same thing. And yeah, and I'll tell you why I'm coming to this conclusion, at least right now, anyway. And again, I am no lawyer. I'm just commenting on what I'm seeing so far, at least as far as the lawyering is concerned. Now, right now, everything they're doing or have been doing for the past few days are direct examination of witnesses. Okay, and they have been entering exhibits. But my problem, at least from the outside looking in, is this. Where's the tie-in? Okay, they were in a relationship together. Yes, they kept it private. Yes, they should have told people. But where's the financial benefit to Fani? How is she benefiting from this relationship? Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's enough circumstantial in this whole thing that if you had a judge who is ruling on it fairly down the middle, and again, Judge McAfee may surprise all of us. Okay? He might surprise everybody with this ruling and say, yep, I've seen enough. But the problem is, I will give Drama Mama and Nathan Wade a whole lot of credit here. Okay? He's saying that he paid for everything with his business credit card. Okay. Maybe not the way I would have done it, but all right. At least you got documentation for the stuff you did. She, on the other hand, is saying she paid him back, or at least paid half of it, or paid for her, and whatever. I mean, in other words, he's not getting, free run here, okay? Because she's a strong, independent woman. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm waiting to see the argument phase of this. What arguments are you going to make to the judge that proves that she's getting financial benefit from this relationship? I mean, yeah, he's being paid by Fulton County to do this. Yes, they're in a relationship, but whatever they're doing, at least on its face, makes it look like they're splitting, they're like, they're doing Dutch. He's paying half, she's paying half, or she's paying some part of it. Where's the financial benefit here? And again, I'm trying to be fair about this. I mean, I think the whole RICO case against Trump and the other defendants is absolutely ridiculous. But to get her and Nathan Wade tossed out on this, you're going to, I mean, at least in my mind anyway, you're going to have to be able to prove she's getting some financial benefit from him that is against Georgia law. How are you going to do that? Now, there is another aspect of this I want to talk about for a few minutes, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. It's not even so much what the lawyers are trying to prove at this point that is just making me continue to want to watch this. It's the answers and the way questions are being answered that, to me, is bringing up even more stuff and more problems potentially for Fani Willis than beyond the question of whether she should be disqualified from this case. And Gypsy brings up a really good point here. Cash is king, cash is queen. There's no receipts, there's nothing in writing. I want to play you guys a clip, and Lucky 13, I apologize, but I've got this one I got to do. I absolutely have to do this one. Let me find it here real fast. Fani, let me back this up a second. Let me back this up and do it right. I want to show you testimony from Nathan Wade first, okay? Because what he says in his testimony sets up some pretty interesting stuff from Drama Mama a little bit later. So Nathan Wade's on the stand. He's being asked a question about these trips that they go on. And here's the answer that he comes up with. Watch this.
All I needed. You said in the affidavit that you roughly shared travel, though, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this roughly sharing travel, you're saying she reimbursed you?
She did.
Okay, so she's reimbursing him. Okay, fine, no problem. Now, when you hear that, you would think to yourself, okay, she's reimbursing him, and there's an assumption in that, or I think most people would have a reasonable assumption, and that is, okay, she's reimbursing him. There should be some way to demonstrate this, right? I mean, when you hear that, someone's reimbursed you, even if she weren't the district attorney for Fulton County, let's just say in her own personal life, you would think that if she ever got called on the carpet for whatever reason, she could offer the receipts, as the kids say these days, to prove, hey, this is what I did, and I have the proof, here it is. Now, listen to what is asked and answered next.
And where did you deposit the money she reimbursed you?
It was cash. She didn't give me any checks.
So
she didn't give him any checks. It was all in cash. We continue.
She paid you cash for her share of all these vacations.
Mr. Schaefer, you'll step out if you do that again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so all of the vacations that she took, she paid you cash for.
Yes, ma'am.
And you purchased all of these vacations on your business credit card, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you included those in deductions on your taxes, correct?
No, ma'am.
No, you did not.
Okay. It's this answer right here that I think opens up Drama Mama and Nathan Wade Dream cabin week? Hang on. The dream cabin. Okay. Connecticut, do me a favor, because I am not referencing, I'm not realizing what you're telling me. And I apologize for this, because if it's been sent to me, either I'm not remembering it or I'm overlooking, but do me a favor. If you can, send it to me real quick on Twitter. Oh, wait, thank you. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll pop this up there, because this is funny. And yeah, now, Gypsy, you bring up a really good point here. Never paid him any cash and can't prove this. And that's, I mean, beyond the question of whether she and Wade should be disqualified from this, okay, from this case, the answers they're giving in court to me, and again, I'm no lawyer, I'm no accountant, I'm just a guy watching what's going on and using my common sense and my experience, but the answers they're giving here are opening the door to so many other things that one or both of them could be charged with. How about tax fraud? How about money laundering? How about any number of different things in those circles that I think they are absolutely opening the door for here? Okay. So they go on trips together. He's putting it on his card. She's reimbursing him, which, okay, fine. She's reimbursing him. No problem. But she's doing it in cash. She's doing it in cash. Okay. Well, let's hear from Drama Mama herself. Okay. This clip runs about 2 minutes. I'll stop it where I think we need to. And I want you guys to hear this, because this good. So Drama Mama takes the stand. And I think in part, she took the stand. And again, this is just my opinion. Lawyers will disagree with me if they want to. But Drama Mama takes the stand because I think, in her opinion, old Nathan Wade was getting picked apart like vultures on a carcass. They were going after him. Now, again, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. But old Drama Mama volunteers to go on the stand to testify. And I want you to hear what happens next. Check this out. And like I said, I'll stop this at whatever points I feel I need to.
But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go.
Okay, now for the record, look, if I had a daughter, I'd tell her to do the same thing. Honey, I know you're going on a date with this young man, and this young man is going to buy you dinner, but on the off chance this thing goes sour, or he's got a problem, or whatever, you carry cash. I don't disagree with it. Fine. So let's continue.
So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. 'Cause I don't go on many dates, but.
Gee, I wonder why.
When you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible.
Oh, I'll bet it's fungible.
I've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like,
whoa. I'm backing that up. Did you guys hear what she just said? Did you hear this? I want to play that again.
Whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like,
okay. Again, I am no lawyer, but when you ran your first campaign, you took out cash and you kept it at your house. Now, if that is permissible under Georgia law, fine. Call me crazy if you wish, but Is that not opening the door for an investigation into campaign finance fraud if somebody really want to push the issue? You just admitted on the stand you took money out of your first campaign and you kept the cash in your house. Now, again, if permissible under Georgia law, fine. Well, let's get back to Drama Mama for a second, because there's some more of this that I want to play. And again, Lucky 13, I get where you're coming from. Letitia James, Bragg, Smith. Now I will warn you, I've got a Biden clip coming up a little bit later, but I've got to play it to set up something else. So, and it's not bad, but I will warn you in advance for the sake of fairness. Now, let's get back to Drama Mama, and let's go through the rest of her explanation about all this glorious cash. Oh, I absolutely agree. We need to laugh. We gotta laugh. But anyway, here's some more from Drama Mama.
Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
Oh, well, thank you very much there, statue of femininity.
You can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody.
Now, this is something else about her during all this, that sassy attitude of hers. Okay? I realize you hold an office in Fulton County, but in this moment, you're a witness on the stand. So quit copping an attitude.
Gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband.
And
No, it's important. You said, where did the money
And why are you allowed to interrupt? Where do you get off with that crap?
come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from.
She's
And so
answering your
for
questions.
many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at Kate.
You had $15,000 in your house? I'll come back to that here in a minute.
Cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
the money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
No, that's what you're telling us anyway.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period that's probably in there.
You don't
It
know
could
what-
have,
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because we're at the end of the clip. Okay. Yeah. Well, now I'm going to say something, and this might surprise you. Okay, I have made no secret about where I live. Okay, West Virginia. Maybe I should be a little more discreet about it, but it's a pretty big state. But let's just say something more broadly here. Appalachia. Okay. And, Robert, you may or may not back me up on this one if you've ever had this experience, but I have. Even though we are now really 4 generations removed from the Great Depression, there is still a mentality in some parts of where I'm from, speaking broadly, Appalachia, that says they don't trust banks and they don't believe in putting their money in the bank. I work in a particular job. I'm not going to say what it is because I like to keep those two parts, this part of my life, separate from my work life as much as I can. I have seen customers who will keep multi-thousands of dollars in their house in a safe. And that wouldn't be so bad, except in my line of work, when they have to document where their money's come from, they'll write a letter of explanation saying, oh, well, you keep, $7,000 in cash, in the safe in my house. And that starts to make a problem because, depending on what the type of transaction is they're trying to get done, unverifiable cash becomes a very big problem. And you can sometimes work your way through that, but the documentation steps you got to go through are just insane. So the argument that says that she's keeping several $1,000s in her house, maybe upwards of one time $15,000 in cash, although I think that's a bit excessive, I could theoretically seeing that be possible. Okay. And again, I mean, for emergencies, yeah, I agree with you. People keep cash in their house. Well, okay, I'll agree with this. Just because you say it in testimony doesn't necessarily make it a fact. I'll grant you that. And yeah, some people will keep maybe maybe a very small amount of money. Okay, very small amount. And you know what, Gypsy, you hang on to that because I'll come back to that because that's a good point. That's a good point in contradiction to some of what she's saying. But we'll get to that in a minute. And no, I do not keep my money in mason jars. Thank you very much. I keep them in Folgers coffee cans. There's a big difference. I like the metal. I don't want glass. All right. But I mean, seriously, there is a certain mentality in certain parts of Appalachia. They will not put money in the bank. They'll go to the bank. They'll cash the check. They'll take the cash home to their house. I literally heard about an individual in another part of my state who bought a piece of property and they brought a duffel bag full of cash to a McDonald's in their hometown, met the lawyer there, signed the deed paperwork, and gave the cash, and everybody walked out. They considered this to be normal. As crazy as that sounds, I have heard that happen, and I know who told me the story, and I do not doubt their veracity. But Fani, old drama mama here, is sitting around saying, thousands of dollars in my house. I keep cash. Now, here starts to become the problem, and she gets asked this a little bit later. She can't verify where the cash came from. All she can say is, well, it came from my sweat and tears. Well, okay, that may be very well and good, but which set of sweat and which set of tears? Show me on, did you take it out of, did you withdraw cash from your bank? Did you take money out of an ATM machine? Did you make a purchase at a store and you said, hey, I want an extra $50 for whatever? She can't explain to anybody where this cash is coming from. And Gypsy brings up a very good point here. Drama Mama and Daddy Drama kept thousands of dollars in cash, and yet they also claim there are protesters, vandals, and stalkers. And Gypsy brings up a valid point here. In testimony, she's saying, hey, I own this house in North Fulton County, and I had to move because I was receiving threats about the Trump case, whatever, and I moved into this condo. Yet Dad, who's elderly, is staying there all by himself. So if they've got all this cash between the two of them laying around their residence, why are you keeping this much cash in light of the fact that you've got vandals and threats against you and stalkers and whatever? Again, the practice of keeping cash in your house, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But for her purposes here, she can't verify where the cash came from, is either unable or unwilling to give bank records to show it, and is keeping this cash in light of the fact that there's all this danger and weirdness and everything else swirling around her. Okay? There's just something in all this that to me is not adding up. Now, keep in mind, if what Judge McAfee said on last Monday is correct, that there's enough here to at least order, and let me put the words back up on the screen. It's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. Okay? Personally, and again, I am not saying this because other than I'm just trying to look at the facts here and be honest about it. This thing looks sketchy as hell. Okay? The fact that they're in a relationship, okay, they're two adult people. Fine. They're in a relationship. The fact you didn't disclose this to anyone in your office is a problem, number one. The fact that you don't have records to be able to demonstrate who paid for what, such that it could be legitimately accused of you that you are improperly benefiting from the fact that Loverboy here is getting money from an office that you run and you're going on all these lavish trips with him. You cannot prove to anybody how you paid him back so that that accusation is neutralized, because all you're telling us is you paid him in cash. You can't prove where the cash came from. You can't show how much you paid him back. All I have is your word on the stand. And I'm supposed to believe this? I am telling you, this thing looks sketchy as hell. Okay? And then what makes it even worse for Drama Mama and Loverboy is how she's presenting herself on the stand. Okay? I got a clip here. One of the other members of LawTube, aside from Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic, which he's the fellow I've been following in this, and which all of them are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking ill or better of one or the other, but I just happen to find Joe Neerman's coverage of this, and I, kind of dipping my eyes in whenever I can to kind of watch what's going on. Well, and if this is true, that to me is an even bigger problem. Because if these are forfeitures or confiscations that are related to the business end of her office, and she's somehow keeping the cash off of that, that's a big problem. At least I would think so anyway. And yeah, Joe Neerman is absolutely awesome. And by the way, thank you for the shout out that you gave him to him about me, giving him a shout out. I genuinely appreciate that. I mean, like I say, I like Joe Neerman. I think he's a good, even-handed guy, and he's got a very sly sense of humor, but he's got that beautiful everyman quality about him that I love so much. But it's another part of her problem. Drama Mama is just coming across as the most bitchy thing that walked into a room. Okay. I'm going to play a clip from Viva Fry. You got to hear this. Check this out. I mean, if you're wondering why everybody in the mainstream media is saying, yeah, she got a problem here, watch this.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
Now, the question's innocuous enough. So your office objects to us getting records from Delta Airlines about these flights you took. Now, listen to this.
Well, no. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think
Whoa. What, like you're not intrusive into people's personal lives when you're doing prosecutions? What is it? You don't like when the shoe's on the other foot? Is that what it is?
I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020.
Well, lady, that's not the issue here. The issue here is your honesty and your veracity. Okay? If you get to go back and try this case, then you can get back on your soapbox about who was or was not trying to steal an election. But until that moment comes, we're talking about your honesty in this. We're just trying to verify your credibility.
I'm not
Oh
on
my
trial,
goodness.
no matter how hard you try to put
Oh
me on
my
trial.
goodness.
So my question.
Oh, is
was,
she a psychopath
you
that
have any
it just
I
problem?
object to getting any personal records.
keep
of
going,
mine.
Fanny.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
Keep going, Fanny.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What, we had offered to put them in
This is-
camera
this
for
is
the court
the-
to review.
the
and
most
I just wanna know
disastrous
if
thing I've ever
she has any
seen.
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
And I've seen a bird get stepped on. This is crazy.
Okay, you have to file.
I'm not on
something
trial.
called a
They're on trial for trying to steal an
disclosure.
election.
That's correct.
Yeah. Turned rumbler. Yeah, Dave's awesome. He's awesome. He's absolutely tremendous. But you begin to see what I'm talking about with her. She's all the time copping an attitude. Robert. One lady who was questioning her. I'm like you. I'm not really impressed with her. Now, there's one lawyer in here. I think his name is Sodor. He's the lawyer for Trump, and man, that guy is he's like a surgeon when he's up there asking questions. Yeah, I agree with you. This one lady questioning Fani, I mean, again, I am no lawyer, but I must admit I'm a little, yeah, she's not, bless her heart, she's not my first pick. Let's put it like that. And this is the part that's making me nervous. And that's another thing that's just frustrating to me. He just keeps deferring to her. I mean, there would be moments when Drama Mama was up on the stand and she is just going on and going off for like 3-4 minutes at a time, copping an attitude, accusing people of lying, accusing people of trying to get into her personal life, of making sure that a black man's not emasculated. I mean, this stuff was just straight ridiculous what she was doing. And the judge is just sitting there just letting her go. If that had been any other witness, any other time, any other trial, I will argue there is no judge in his right mind that would have put up with that crap. I mean, it's just absolutely awful what she was doing. I've never seen anything like it. It was just insane. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the guys from LawTube are absolutely right. You know, he would never shut her up, stand her down, and it's his courtroom. I mean, look. In her function as the district attorney of Fulton County, I understand that her office grants her a certain amount of gravity and weight, and she should be respected. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Okay? None. What I got a problem with is when you're acting like a bitch. And you don't need to. If you want to be firm, if you don't want your boundaries violated, I respect all of that. That's fine. I get it. But hey, Drama Mama, what you were doing up there the other day is totally out of bounds. And as far as I'm concerned, the judge most certainly should have stood you down. And as far as I'm further concerned, he ought to be writing up a complaint to the Georgia Bar Association over you. If for no other reason, your behavior in that courtroom as an officer of the court. I mean, the way Drama Mama acted was ridiculous. Good point. Yeah, I think the rule is, yeah. Well, it may have changed, but when I was involved in banking, the rule was anything 10,000 or above, you had to fill out a report showing that you're walking out the door with that much in cash. Now, I think the 3,000 might be under a different circumstance, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But even I know you don't ask a question you don't already know the answer to or have the evidence of, i.e., the bank statements. Good point. And like I say, you know, and maybe they've got them. I don't know. I mean, like I say, right now they're in the direct examination and the evidence presentation. I want to see what arguments these lawyers are going to make. Because like I say, to me, if the standard of law in Georgia is that they could be disqualified either for the proof of appearance of conflict or just the appearance thereof, in other words, you could do it for either reason, then I think the appearance of conflict is pretty well established at this point. Now, I also think everybody else in chat is right. Whether this judge is going to do it or not is a whole other question. Because if the way he failed to stand her down is any indication, I'm not holding out a lot of hope here. Because maybe, and again, this is something else I don't quite understand. I mean, Gypsy brings up the point he is or was Fani's employee. Well, my question is this. He's the judge. She's the district attorney. It seems to me they would at minimum be equals. And you know what? I don't disagree with this either. She's got hostile witnesses and I don't know about biased judge. I might disagree with you there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the job she's doing is easy, because frankly, from my perspective, that judge hasn't given her or the other lawyers a whole lot of room to operate. This whole privilege thing is just a little bit ridiculous. Oh, by the way, that's even better. That's rich. One of Nathan Wade's former business partners, the lawyers for Drama Mama and Loverboy didn't do him any favors. And over on Rumble, TBA 369 says, hey, good to see the front porch concert. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, WWG1 says, Fani forgot how to put on a dress. Yeah, a lot of people were making light of the fact that that dress looked like it was put on backwards, but well, I know. But this whole thing is just sketchy as all get out. And again, I'm very curious to see what the argument phase of this is. All right, you're laying out all this evidence. Can you tie it together? Can you prove that there's a conflict of interest here? Because as far as I'm concerned, the appearance of one looks like it's already established. But can you directly prove it? And is this judge going to have the stones to say, yep, you're off this case? Yeah, Terrence Bradley, Loverboy's former law partner, yeah, he should have, he opened himself up for a whole lot of problems, which, I will touch on, but I won't want to get into too deep because I don't want to overspeak myself here. He kept claiming privilege. Well, he opened himself up for a problem because later on it was established that the reason that he left the partnership with Wade, was for reasons different sort of than what was presented. And now Judge McAfee is getting ready to rule on the question. Well, some of your testimony may be privileged and some of it may not. So whatever Loverboy told you may be fair game. Oh, and you had to see that. Joe Neerman's commentary on it was hysterical. And over back on Rumble, WWG1 says people looked it up online. That dress was on backwards. Okay. The judge is not going to toss this case. Y'all might be right. And sadly, I think you may very well be. But I will say this. Regardless of what happens on this motion to remove Drama Mama and Loverboy, man, these two have got problems out the yin-yang after this is all over with. The door is open on so many different things that somebody could go after them on. There's just, man, there's a lot to work with there. A lot to work with. I will show you one other thing, and then I want to move on to a different topic. One of my favorite people to follow on social media is a young lady out of California named Sasha Stone, and I try to keep up with her writing and her stuff on Substack. If you're not following Sasha, give her a follow on Substack because she's just amazing. But I want you to take a look at this. Firecracker Fani, just when you thought it was safe to go back into the court. I love that headline. Not since Donald Trump have we seen someone as unfiltered and unpredictable as DA Fani Willis, who stomped into the courtroom like a pint-sized Godzilla and delivered what has to be the single most entertaining testimony in the history of trials. With dialogue better than any Hollywood screenwriter could ever come up with, Willis had a lot to say. She went in guns blazing, ready to destroy every single lawyer in the courtroom. Haughty and outraged that anyone would dare question her behavior, she was sometimes evasive and defensive. She would then get quiet and tell a tender story about her father, Nathan Wade's mother, or her children. She alternated between playing the victim and playing the bully, which was riveting television. And boy, she did a lot of that. Go a little further into this thing. I want to get down to the end of it because Sasha makes a very good point. Either way, I doubt our corrupt government will care one way or the other. They are determined to get Trump and have a case. Trial date for March 25th to begin on the hush money case in New York. The more people go after him, the more people like to support him. I would be lying if I felt optimistic about any of this. Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I say, it makes me sad, but I think all you guys are right. I really do. This woman is just... Let's just put it this way. If Judge McAfee tosses them off this case, I will be surprised. Because like I said, the appearance of how sketchy this is, the appearance is already established. You know, over on Rumble, we've got, this is what a Trump-hating diversity hire looks like. Boy, WWG1, you said that right. You said that absolutely right. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me. Just absolutely mind-boggling. And Blue Sky brings up a very good point. And that was something weird, by the way. And I wish I had the clip pulled up to talk about this. The lawyers kept asking Bradley, who was Nathan Wade's former law partner, how much did he pay you for handling the divorce part? He couldn't answer the question. Now, if he was doing it pro bono, I'd understand that. And that's what struck me so weird about it. Why don't you just say, well, you know, he's my law partner and a friend of mine. I had agreed to do this pro bono. I wasn't going to take any money from him. Which, I mean, like I said, that answer would have made perfect sense. You know, you may not agree with it, but it would have made sense. But he kept being evasive about it. And Bradley had been subpoenaed to testify. He said, I had a doctor's appointment. The judge got pissed at that. But like I say, there's a whole lot here that, man, it's just weird all the way around. So weird. And for anybody out there covering this or watching it, man, this is going to get real interesting next week. I'm telling you what. It really will. It just like I say, mind-boggling to me. Forgive me a second, folks. I'm just straightening up some stuff here on my tabs. Give me a little bit of room to work with. It's about, oh my gosh, it's 10 minutes after 12. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on Twitter talking about what's going on in the news these days. And there's a few other items I want to get to. And one of them is one of the weirder things. Oh. That might explain what happened with Bradley. Ashley gave the question that could be. Oh, well, thank you. I genuinely appreciate that. And feel free to drop in your comments anytime you want to. We're glad to have you. You know, I promise we don't bite. Really, we don't. I can't speak for Larry, but yeah, we don't bite. Anyway, no, Blue Sky. I mean, yeah, you're welcome to comment and drop. You know, we're a friendly bunch. We get a little feisty sometimes, but you know, we love you and thank you. I genuinely appreciate it. So let's get to something else that I found going on this week, and I tell you what, the lengths and the desperation on the part of the deep state, where certain questions of foreign policy and etc. are concerned, is just absolutely amazing. And you saw an example of it this week. Did you guys hear about what happened with Mike Turner, the House Intelligence Committee chairman? Check this out. This is from thehill.com. Calls on Biden to declassify a serious national security threat. This is an article written by Rebecca Besch. House Intelligence Chair Mike Turner, Republican Ohio, made a cryptic call for President Biden to declassify information about, quote, a serious national security threat to allow for public discussions about how the U.S. should respond. But Turner's call was largely out of step with other voices in Congress who said the matter, while serious, was no call for alarm. The ranking member of the panel, Jim Himes, Connecticut Democrat, which, by the way, up in Connecticut, what do you know about this guy? But anyway, we'll get to that. Today, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has made available to all members of Congress information concerning a serious national security threat. Turner said in a statement, I'm requesting that President Biden declassify all information relating to this threat so Congress, the administration, and our allies can openly discuss the actions necessary to respond to the threat. Okay. Some thoughts about this, first of all. When this came out, and I think it was, what was that, Wednesday of last week? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was. It was Valentine's Day. I'm sorry. It was Valentine's Day. Everybody, I won't say they hit the panic button, but Turner absolutely through Wall Street, Capitol Hill, various allies around the world, and everybody's like, what the hell? Now, don't get me wrong. I know that as the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, or even a member of the Intelligence Committee, okay, you got access to certain materials that most of the public will not see for a while, okay? You also have access to stuff that I may never see, or anybody else may never see. You also have access to very serious and sensitive material. I get that. I also get that you have the responsibility to decide when it's time and when it's not time to tell the public about what you've got. I respect that too. What I got a problem with is what was done Wednesday. Because for the first time in a long time, there was an almost bipartisan response to what Mike Turner was doing. I mean, even the White House, Jake Sullivan, who I have little to no use for, by the way, he's the national security advisor to Biden, is up there saying, okay, yeah, it's serious. We're aware of it. We've been aware of it for a while. But, we're not that worried about it. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is saying, yeah, we know about it. We're taking it seriously, but there's no reason for anybody to. I mean, to a Democrat and a Republican, everybody is like, okay, yeah, it's important. There's no need for everybody to panic. Now, maybe you could argue that, okay, they're just trying to keep everybody calm. It really is that serious, but they don't want panic to set in. I'm not inclined to believe that that's what's going on here. I think that could be a motive. I don't think that was the motive for all of their comments in response to Turner. Okay? What I do think is going on here is this. This is from Breitbart. Speaker Johnson pulls surveillance bill after House intel lawmakers fold. This is an article written by Sean Moran. Speaker Mike Johnson announced on Wednesday the House will no longer consider a government surveillance bill after the House Intel Committee was smoked by pro-reform lawmakers. Raj Shah, the deputy communications chief for Johnson, announced, in order to allow Congress more time to reach consensus on how to best reform FISA and Section 702 while maintaining the integrity of our critical national security programs, the House will consider the reform and reauthorization bill at a later date. Okay, here's what I'm getting at. I've got a feeling, of which I'll never be able to prove, by the way, but I got a distinct feeling. Mike Turner was trying to short circuit whatever efforts were going to be made to reform the FISA law that's up for reauthorization. There are people on Capitol Hill, and I think they are appropriate in their actions, that want more stringent and more vigorous protections on right to privacy for you and for me as American citizens. They want warrants issued every single time that somebody in the federal government feels the need to surveil one of us. I don't disagree with that, by the way. FISA 702 of FISA right now doesn't let that happen. And they're pushing for the reforms. I've got a feeling Turner was trying to short circuit that effort. Can't prove it, but I get that distinct impression. Now, what Turner did has got most, if not all, of his colleagues upset, particularly on the Republican side of the aisle. Here's a copy of a letter that Andy Ogles, who's the representative from the Tennessee 5th District, sent to Mike Johnson and said, I want an inquiry opened on what Turner did. And it goes a little bit further than that. You've got people from Andy Biggs out in Arizona to Bob Good out in Virginia who are like, he cannot remain chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. He's got to go. And frankly, for my part, I agree with him, but for a different reason. Okay? Here's my problem with what Turner did, among others. I've got a lot of problems with what he did. He caused a panic. The man did not, regardless of what he feels or how he feels about, the FISA reauthorization, funding to Ukraine, which from my perspective might have been another reason why he was doing it. But regardless of how he feels about all that, the reason why I'm saying Turner's got to go as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, he caused a panic. Now, whether he did it on purpose or whether he did it on accident, that's a whole other question too, by the way. All right? But at a minimum, he caused a panic. The reason that I want him removed as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, he did not have the discernment enough to realize what his actions were going to do. Okay? Now, like I said, whether he did it on purpose or whether he did it deliberately, that can be argued, that can be investigated, that can be proven with evidence. Okay? Or at least as much as possible, you can prove it with evidence. But my problem is he didn't have enough discernment to understand what his actions may do if he turned them loose with this information. Because like I said, when he dropped this about noon on Wednesday, everybody on Capitol Hill, it hit the news wires. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. There's, worries about what kind of weaponry does Russia? Yeah, and I saw that, Connecticut. Absolutely. Russia. What kind of weaponry do they have? Are they trying to put something up in space that would destroy our satellites? Yada, yada, yada. On and on and on. I'm sorry, when you're the chairman of the House, or either Senate or House Intelligence Committee, okay, you have access to information that is beyond just the normal realm of what it is. It's powerful. If you release it, if you talk about it, if you even hint at it, you've got the potential to cause a panic, either nationally or internationally or both. This guy didn't even have the discernment to understand what his actions would do when he put this out there. Or maybe he did, and that's why he did it. Again, a point to be investigated. But you see what I'm getting at here. He was irresponsible. His actions, as far as I'm concerned, were just grossly irresponsible. Regardless of how he feels about Ukraine funding, regardless of how he feels about FISA reauthorization, whatever. Okay? You had information in your possession. You hinted around at what you had. You did it in an irresponsible way that caused a panic, such that everybody on Capitol Hill has got to tap this thing down. And not just Capitol Hill, by the way. The Biden administration had to weigh in on it. And frankly, they should have. As I said earlier, it's one of those few rare moments when there was bipartisan agreement about something in Washington, D.C. So yeah, Turner needs to go. He absolutely needs to go. Out. Be gone. Goodbye. Sorry, I'm on a rant here, but that just pissed me off when he did that crap. Absolutely made me mad. And sometimes you just got to rant. You got to get it out your system. Let's see what everybody's saying over here. WWG1 says, since when does the military ask the populace for advice on how to proceed? Good point. TBA says, Turner throws a sidewinder in order to delay FISA and 702. Yeah, I think he did. I really do believe he did. And there are people in Congress that don't want the American people to be protected from FISA or a 702 request. Oh, yeah. I wish now I'd have kept the clip up about Jake Sullivan talking about, we don't feel that having a warrant's necessary in these situations. Yeah. Good. All good points. All good points. If Turner doesn't have the discernment of a dandelion, he doesn't need to be in Congress. Absolutely. Absolutely. They tell us on the one hand Russia's third world, and then they say they have weapons. Yeah, that's a great point too. And okay, I was wondering about Himes. I mean, like I said, I don't know that much about Turner's counterpart on the Intelligence Committee, but when I saw his name, I thought, okay, seems like he's coming across pretty reasonable. Thanks for the information. Yeah, it's mind-boggling, this guy, Chase. Okay. It's 12:22, and we have hit the part of the program that I call HodgePodge Stew. And for those of you who are regulars, you're going to know what we're about to head into next. And for those of you who are going to be watching this maybe for the first time, or you're dropping by for the first time, HodgePodge Stew are those stories that are important, but they don't quite get above the fold, so to speak. Yes, it is time for the miracle third hour. Yes, TBA, we are headed for the miracle third hour. So there are a group of stories that I've got for HodgePodge, and one of them is a leftover from what would have been Front Porch Brunch last week that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it, because it is still having so much impact. And that is the special counsel report dropped by Robert Hur regarding Joe Biden and his handling of classified documents. And I don't know that I've ever seen a report issued by a government official that has caused so much controversy, not so much for what's in the report as it is the effect of the report. Now, for those of you who may not have heard about this or may not know what's going on, I'll give you the background. Maybe about 9 months to a year ago, Attorney General Merrick Garland commissions Robert Hur as a special counsel to investigate documents that have been found at Joe Biden's residence, an office in D.C., and various other places. Now, the story goes, at least from Biden's side of it, yeah, his people were clearing out his offices. They found this stuff, and, they self-reported it to the National Archives, to the Justice Department, to everybody else. Well, then upon self-reporting, it gets found out these documents are all over the place, some of them including his garage and his home in Delaware. So the Attorney General commissions Robert Hur to investigate the whole thing. And with the diligence and the pace that goes with a Washington bureaucrat, he does his investigation. And he then releases his report. And the report goes on to say that Biden willfully kept classified government documents in his possession after he left the vice presidency. But worse than that, some of these documents go all the way back to the days when he was a U.S. senator. Okay? So we're not even talking about his years in the White House. And the report says that he willfully kept them, and that he knowingly shared information in those classified documents with a ghostwriter. Okay? But in spite of all of that, Hur is not going to charge Joe Biden. Now, if it had just stopped there, then you could make the argument, well, this is typical Washington. Here's another example of two-tiered system of justice. They're going after Donald Trump for documents he had in his possession at Mar-a-Lago in a secured, compartmentalized area. But for Joe Biden, he's got classified documents, and they're not going to touch him. If it has stopped right there, then people would be mad about it. They'd roll their eyes about it, but they would say, whatever. It's typical Washington. It's the reason why her chose not, or one of them, let me rephrase that. It's one of the reasons that he listed as to why he's choosing not to prosecute Biden that absolutely last week set off the political equivalent of an atom bomb in the nation's capital and around the country. Because everybody was talking about this. Okay. So I want to get into a little bit of this article from justthenews.com, which is John Solomon's fantastic organization. If you're not reading John Solomon's stuff, recommend him to you because he's good. He's good. So let's get into this. Article written by Ben Whedon and John Solomon. Special counsel Robert Hur concluded in a stinging report released Thursday that President Joe Biden willfully kept classified documents from his time as vice president, shared them with an author, and knew he had them back as far as 2017, but recommended against prosecution. Hur said that part of the reason he declined to prosecute the president's age and poor memory would create reasonable doubt for the jurors. It would, quote, be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, that is Biden, by then a former president well into his 80s, now here's the key words, of a serious felony that would require a mental state of willfulness. Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did with our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with poor memory. But Hur spared few words for Biden's handling of classified documents, some of which were kept in notebooks in insecure locations. Our investigation uncovered evidence that Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. Okay. I will read some of that again. Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with poor memory. When Robert Hur dropped that report and people read those words, the effect was like a political bomb going off, and the reverberation out from it is still being felt. To the point that every time a Democrat on Capitol Hill or around the country or a political operative turns around, they got to answer questions about this. And some of the examples that Robert Hur gave in the report were just astounding. And I don't have the quotes pulled up, but I wish I did. They reference a 2-day interview, or deposition, I should say, that Biden gave early in October. Matter of fact, it was just after the attack by Hamas on Israel. Okay. Where he could not remember what years he was the vice president. And more particularly, he couldn't remember within a reasonable time frame what year it was his son Beau Biden died. Okay? So let's pause here for just 1 second. Much has been made about Joe Biden's mental capacities. Okay. Oh, hang on, Blue Sky. I'm coming to that. I saw your comment. I'm not ignoring it, and I'm coming to that. A lot has been made about Joe Biden's mental capabilities. Okay. For my part, I have no problem with his age. I have known some people in their early to mid or even late 80s who were as sharp as a tack. You couldn't get anything past them. Their body might be, their physical skills might be deteriorating, but their mental sharpness, no, absolutely not. They're extraordinary for their age. Okay. So I have no problem with the fact that our president is 81 years old. I got a lot of problems with our president, believe me. His age isn't necessarily one of them. Okay. But his mental capacity is another. And what Robert Hur did with that report and the reason why he would not charge Biden, Robert Hur pulled the lid off of Pandora's box and ripped it off the hinges. They ain't no closing this thing back now. I mean, use whatever analogy you want. Put the genie back in the bottle, close Pandora's box, whatever. Now it's out in the open, God, and everybody's talking about it. Have we got a man in the presidency who's not mentally capable of doing the job? And the polling is showing it. I mean, I think it was it CBS or was it ABC News? I forget who it was. Had a poll, I think it was ABC News, had a poll out that said 81% of the American people do not believe Joe Biden is mentally fit to do the job. This is horrible on so many levels, but let's just talk about the politics for a minute, okay? You have a man in Joe Biden who is personally unpopular. A third of Democrats don't want him to run for re-election. Is quickly becoming politically unpopular in that, according to more recent polling that Richard Barris of Big Data Poll, the People's Pundit on social media, follow him, he's fantastic, that Biden is now becoming a drag down the ticket for Democrats. So he's personally unpopular, he's politically unpopular, and now you've got a report that comes out that says we can't charge him because the jury would look at him and go, well, he's a nice old man who can't remember things. And that is the core of a question that many people have, and they're asking themselves right now. And the question goes like this. So you mean he is in such a mental shape you can't charge him, but on the other hand, you're trying to tell me that he's perfectly capable of being president of the United States? In other words, you won't charge him because a jury would look at him and say, well, he's a nice old man who just can't remember things. But his memory is good enough that he can be president. Now, I have said for years, and I wholeheartedly believe this, and I will to my dying breath, the American people are blessed with an extraordinary common sense. Okay? I absolutely believe that. That doesn't mean they're necessarily up on every issue or they, whatever. I'm not talking about that. It's the difference between what my dad would have called book smarts and horse sense. Okay? While there are moments the American people collectively may not have all the book smarts in the world, when it comes to common sense, man, the American people are extraordinary. And they can look at what's going on here, at the juxtaposition of those two things. He's in such bad mental shape you can't prosecute him. But you're trying to tell me he's in good enough mental shape he ought to be president for a second term. They're not buying the argument. Or maybe it's better to say they're not buying the argument that says that he ought to be reelected to a second term. And like I said, there's no putting the genie back on this bottle. I mean, over on Rumble, WWG1 says, so he can't be prosecuted because of his mental state, but he still can be president. Interesting. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's the crux of the argument that's being presented to the American people. You got Jean-Pierre, Baghdad Barbie up there in the press secretary. I can never pronounce her name correctly, so I just start calling her Baghdad Barbie. Baghdad Barbie's up there behind the podium at the White House briefing room telling everybody, no, he's fine. He proves himself every day. He's great. There's no problems here. Baghdad Barbie's up there doing that. And on the other hand, the American people are watching. The guy can't put two sentences together, which, by the by, the day this report dropped, and I absolutely agree with you there, Blue Sky. It is scary. It's frightening. The day this report dropped, the decision was made for Biden to go out and give a press conference at about, call it 7:30, 7:45 at night. Now, I say that a decision was made. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but in hindsight, the most charitable thing I will say is it most certainly was not a good idea. I don't know if Biden's staff thought that it was a good idea for the president to get out there and get on top of this thing, or if Biden just said, I'll show everybody, I can go out there and do this. But he goes out there and he gets eaten alive. And one of the more memorable moments from that press conference was what I'm about to play next. Check this out. I mean, everybody's probably seen this, but it bears repeating. Watch this.
There's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of every memorial.
Okay. How dare they bring this up? How dare they ask me about this? There's just one problem. According to reports, nobody asked him about this. This is from NBC News. Biden attacks her for asking him when Bo died. Problem is he didn't. President raised his son's death after being asked about his workflow at a Virginia rental home where he found classified documents, two sources said. Biden lashed out at Robert Hur last week over one particular line in the special counsel's report that Biden did not remember even within several years when Bo died. But Hur never asked the question, according to two people familiar with Hur's 5-hour interview with the president over 2 days last October. It was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Bo Biden's death, they said. Biden raised his son's death after being asked about his workflow at a Virginia rental home from 2016 to 2018 when a ghostwriter was helping him write a memoir about losing Bo to brain cancer in 2015. Investigators had a 2017 recording showing that Biden had told the ghostwriter he had found classified stuff in that home. Biden began trying to recall that period by discussing what else was happening in his life, and it was at that point in the interview that he appeared confused about when Bo died, that sources said. Biden got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year. The report, Biden's response to it, is a disaster. I mean, it's just an absolute disaster. There's no two ways of putting this. And look, y'all know I can't stand Joe Biden politically. I've got 1,000,001 reasons why he ought to be tossed out on his ear. But this is just wretched. It's awful. If this was Biden's idea to go out and give this press conference, his staff should have just gang tackled him before he ever got to the door. If it was the staff's idea, they ought to be gib-smacked up back of the head. But either way, this press conference was just not helping anything. And now, and this goes back to something Blue Sky had said earlier, and I said I'd highlight it. They should release the transcript, and that's exactly what's coming next. From the Washington Times, the House GOP demands DOJ turn over the transcript of Biden's special counsel interview. And I tell you what, if this happens, or they release the tape, if there was a videotape, they release that, you got all kinds of problems. Because like I said, the genie's out of the bottle. There's no stopping this now. And it will get increasingly worse. And yeah, Dave, I think you are absolutely right. They will be happy to release it, and they want it. And Gypsy, I concur. They want this done on purpose. Look, I do my best, and I think you, my audience, do as well. I think everybody in this audience and myself as your host, we do our best to not deal in anything other than facts in hand and try to interpret what they mean. Or maybe the better way to say it is, we do our best here not to engage in conspiracy theory. But when it walks like a duck, it looks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. What I'm getting at is this. It's becoming painfully obvious that there is a move afoot, either inside the Democrat Party or at the behest of the deep state, to get Joe Biden out of the presidency. Preferably as soon as possible, but at a minimum at the ballot box. Oh, come on, Front Porch. That's crazy. His party wouldn't do this to him. Really? You sure about that? If it means losing power, they'll remove whoever they've got to remove to hang on to power. It doesn't matter if it's a congressional seat, a Senate seat, the presidency. Don't you think this isn't going to happen? And worse than that, the special counsel, has agreed to testify before the Congress. The reverberations coming off of that report, and like I said, this is one of those rare moments, truly one of those very rare moments when it's not the action that's the story, it's the aftershock. And this gets to a very interesting question that the Dems are going to get him out out the day he collects all the electoral votes. Then they will bring in Hochul, Michelle Obama, or Newsom. They will cheat again in the general. And if they don't, the other one, the other one, no offense, Dave. I don't even want to put that up there. It's not because I don't necessarily think you're right. It's too dreadful to think. I mean, this is just, and people are, that report was so shocking to me that it absolutely shook me in my convictions. Because if you'd have asked me before last Thursday, do you think Joe Biden's going to be the nominee? I said, absolutely. He's going to be the nominee all the way to November. And then that report dropped. I'll put it this way. If Joe Biden is the nominee come November, I won't necessarily be surprised. If Joe Biden announces somewhere between now and the Democrat convention in August that he's not running for re-election, that he's choosing to drop out, am I going to be surprised by that? Nope. Not after Thursday. Not after this thing hit. I think all bets are off on the absolute ironclad certainty guarantee that Joe Biden's going to be the nominee come November of 2024 for the Democrats. I think, and like I say, if you'd have asked me this before last Thursday, I'd have said, nope, there's no way it's not going to happen. He'll be the nominee. I am not so sure anymore. I'm not. And the more frightening part for the Democrats is this. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't politically. Now, here's what I'm getting at. Right now, it doesn't matter whose poll you look at. And I mean, when I say any poll, look at any of them. Either Joe Biden, at best, is running dead even with Donald Trump nationally, or he's losing by anywhere up to 6 to 8 points. Nationally. The last time a Republican won the national vote in a presidential election was 2004 when W was reelected. This is how bad it is for the Democrats right now. But here's the worst part. For as bad as the polling is for Joe Biden right now, you put any other name in there against Donald Trump, Kamala, Gavin Newsom, anybody else, they're losing even worse to Trump than Joe Biden is right now. I mean, this is madness what's going on politically. A third of Democrats have known ever since January of last year they don't want Joe Biden in. He's going to get the nomination and may not be running for re-election, may drop out before the convention, or if he does go on, the odds are he could lose this thing and very probably will. I mean, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So, yeah, the reverberations of this report are just, I've never seen anything quite like this. It's crazy. Just crazy. Oh, Lord. Tell you what, let's get a couple other real quickies in here for HodgePodge Stew, and we'll wrap it up. So, did you hear about President Biden's visit to East Palestine, Ohio? Oh, boy. Did this go really well? Check this out. This is part of the greeting that he got. Take a look at this. Let's go, Brandon! Let's go, Brandon! Let's go, Brandon! Let's go!
That's the message. That's the message to Biden right there. Too little, too late. How you guys doing? There you go, guys. Out here in East Palestine, this is Joe Biden finally showing up more than a year later. And that's the message. Real simple. Too little, too late.
That young man's Ben Berquam from Real America's Voice. He's a contributor on War Room with Steve Bannon. And from what I understand, although I didn't see the presser, he gave a one little speech in a fire department and left. Yeah, no wonder they're out there saying, let's go, Brandon, among other justifiable reasons. Let's see what else goes on in the world. Oh, by the way, and I'll wrap it up with this. No, I'm not going to get riled up. It's a Saturday, and I've got a 3-day weekend, so I'm kind of trying to be chill. The State of the Union address is coming up. And Trump's advisors, or people in Trump world, I should say, are trying to get the former president to deliver the response to the State of the Union. I think this is a great idea. Now, supposedly, Trump is leaning against doing it. Me, I say do it. I say do it. This would be great. People would actually, I'll make a prediction. If Trump agrees to do this, people will tune in more to see Trump's response than they will to watch Joe Biden. And to me, that would be hysterically funny. And with that, folks, I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. Thank you for stopping by for Front Porch Brunch. And you guys have been awesome as always. The chat's been on fire in both places. You guys are fantastic. Next week, I'll be doing an appearance on Mike Harlow's channel on Tuesday. I think that's scheduled for, hang on a minute. Let me look real quick. You got to see this. Check my calendar here. I want to say, hang on. I got to find it here real fast. Sorry about this, folks. Yeah, it is 8 p.m. this coming Tuesday night. Mike Harlow is going to have me on his channel for a visit, and we're going to have more videos and live streams coming out next week. So you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy President's Day on Monday. If you happen to have the day off, good for you. Me, I happen to have the day off. So we will see. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend, and remember, as always, the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall. It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. We'll see you next week.